Grew up in Mount Vernon, uptown.
Money earning.
The Red Raiders, we were the Red Raiders in the 60s. I was the running back, and we used to shift like the Cowboys.
Landry.
So I said, oh, the Cowboys play like us.
Right.
I've been a Cowboy fan since the 60s. He's making it hard for me.
Wow.
Not to be a fan, because I'm still a Cowboy fan. I'm still going to have the star on the side of the hat. But he ain't thinking about us. He's thinking about his pocket.
Makes no sense, guys. But you know this.
There's box office and there's Oscars. Jerry, been a while, huh? You ain't been to the show, you wouldn't know.
Ooh.
Wouldn't been to the show, you wouldn't know.
Uh-oh.
Haven't been to the show, so you wouldn't know what it is to win.
I don't need to add.
I feel like we could
And I love the Cowboys. I love the Cowboys because I really love them. This is the way I feel, the way I feel. But that's not what I'm here to talk about. I'm here to talk about the movie.
And I wanted to get back to the movie because you didn't bring the.
Oh,
you didn't
speaking
bring
of the
Cowboys
movie,
up in the
same
movie,
thing.
highest to lowest. You didn't bring it. You didn't bring it up.
And what does it say down the bottom of the movie?
What?
Or does it say it on the one sheet?
What does it say?
All money ain't good money, Jerry.
Say it again.
All money ain't good money, Jerry.
One time.
August 15th, we open Friday.
Woo, Lord.
All money ain't good money.
Things came to a head at training camp. On a scorching Texas afternoon, witnesses spotted Jerry on the sideline during a scrimmage, motioning toward the field as he spoke to Micah Parsons. The star pass rusher shook his head, tension written all over his face. Teammates shifted uneasily, a few stepping in as if to keep things from boiling over. According to those close to the team, the exchange was blunt. Parsons told Jerry, "I'm not risking my career for a team that won't respect me." Jerry fired back, "Son, you don't know how this business works." From there, voices rose. Whatever was said next was lost in the noise, but it was enough to ignite weeks of speculation online, with fans dissecting every grainy training camp clip they could find.
This man's future. You're playing with this man's livelihood in terms of Micah Parsons. Yes, he's under contract, but the reality is that you know what this man deserves. You had an idea about it, and you're playing these games. And why am I so disgusted with Jerry Jones about this? Because of the things that I've heard. Molly, Mike T, Swagoo, you've heard this. Do y'all know he hasn't spoken to Micah Parsons' agent? You're talking about, you're treating like the discussions that you had months ago with Micah Parsons was a negotiation. It wasn't a negotiation. Now, you know this as a former executive in the National Football League. You don't sit up there and have a discussion with a player and think that's a contract negotiation. Was anything memorialized? Was anything firmly and definitively agreed upon by the parties that be? Normally, you're sending the player away because you want to talk to their representation. You're not thinking that a conversation with a player who, by the way, is 25, 26 years of age, that this man is astute and he's an expert at negotiations. That's not Micah Parsons.
Publicly, Jerry downplayed the incident. "I think the world of Micah," he told reporters. "That trade request, just part of the negotiation. Don't lose any sleep over it." It was classic Jerry Jones, measured, dismissive, and calculated. Just enough to keep the story alive without revealing anything meaningful. But behind closed doors, the tone was different. In the locker room, some players whispered that if the team could treat Micah Parsons this way, what chance would they have when their own contracts came up? The tension was no longer just between Jerry and Micah. It was between the front office and the roster itself.
I think that's it. I think what Dan says is important because Jerry Jones has taken this personally. He's treated their conversation in the spring as if it was a conversation amongst friends, right? There is no friendship in ownership and labor. That's not the way it worked. The imbalance of power doesn't allow that. So when Jerry Jones says, okay, we're going to pay you this much per year, it's going to be this many years. And when Micah Parsons says, yes, that sounds good, Jerry, now call David Mulligetta and let's get the fine print worked out. You would expect that David Mulligetta has gotten black and white or gotten an email or gotten a paper that says, here's the outline of what we want to do within a contract. That's never happened. That next step that says, okay, I have a representation, the same way Jerry would have representation if he was going into litigation. I have representation that you're supposed to work this out with. And what's happened publicly is Jerry Jones, as we all do when we get older, we lose the social filter that tells us this is something we shouldn't talk about publicly. Yeah. And so now you've alienated your best player who, even though loves the spotlight, loves attention, went in early and wanted to renegotiate last year. and was willing to have the conversation this year. And if all of those things happen and go the right way that business should be handled, Micah Parsons never has to ask for a trade. And I think him being in camp with what Dan said, his fines being forgivable. This is not Terry McLaurin. This is not Trey Hendrickson, who had to go back to camp because at some point during negotiations, they were going to have to say, the $500,000 I've accrued in fines, can you somehow help me with that within my contract? Micah doesn't have none of those things. Micah has approached this as
Just weeks earlier, Parsons had gone public with his frustration, accusing the organization of freezing out his agent and taking cheap shots at him over injuries sustained while giving everything to the team. "I no longer want to be held to closed-door negotiations without my agent present," Parsons wrote in a statement that spread across social media in minutes. "I no longer want shots taken at me for getting injured while laying it on the line for the organization, our fans, and my teammates." For a player who had been Rookie of the Year, a multiple-time All-Pro, and the unquestioned leader of the defense, it was as direct and cutting as any public statement a Cowboy had made in years. Fans had spent the offseason expecting one of the easiest decisions in franchise history, a massive extension that would make Parsons one of the highest paid defenders in the league. Instead, there was nothing. No talks, no meetings, no movement. Behind closed doors, Jerry Jones and his son Steven weren't even taking calls from Parsons' agent. To the Jones family, it was just business, standard negotiating. But to Parsons, it was a public slight that undermined his value and insulted his role on the team. The silence became its own message. The Cowboys weren't going to be rushed, no matter how important the player.
For the betterment of the team. You don't handle me like you've done for decades and decades with your players. This is definitely a tactic. You can come to terms isolated and one-on-one, but specifications require an agent to be present or a professional in that field. Let Dave Mulligetta do his doggone job because he's really good at what he does. Boxing him out, You're going through the agent sooner or later, Jerry. So why are you not going through the agent for your star players? Some ain't adding up. You ask yourself and say, hey, why is Jerry doing this? Well, Jerry's been doing this since inception, and it's worked for him. But sooner or later, it may not work for everybody.
You feel like Micah will sign with Dallas?
Will Dallas seek a trade? Because he's still under contract with the Dallas Cowboys. So if you're asking who has the leverage, Jerry Jones has the leverage still. And it all comes down to salary cap. Because you got Dak Prescott that's making $60 a year. You got CeeDee Lamb that's also top paid.
But he in a pickle, boy.
It's going to get real interesting in good old Dallas. They still doing training camp over there in California?
I don't know, but somebody might not make the trip back to Dallas if they don't get that paperwork right.
Like, it's really going to get interesting. And we going to keep our nose glued to the tube.
For sure.
We're keeping our eyes locked on this one, because in Dallas, drama isn't an accident, it's part of the DNA. The Cowboys don't just play football, they perform. Every pass, every tackle, every sideline glare feels scripted for maximum effect. And at the center of it all, Jerry Jones, the showrunner of America's team, a man who's turned the Cowboys into the NFL's most valuable and most talked about franchise. But in 2025, the theatrics took a sharp, combustible turn. The team's most electrifying player, defensive superstar Micah Parsons, dropped a bombshell trade request that rocked Cowboys Nation to its core. And Jerry, he didn't just let it happen, he poured gasoline on the fire.
In here and sign it. Micah said this. Now, I don't think the agent would have done that. But Micah, even if he did agree, obviously does not know the fine print, or is not one that should read the fine print and know all the ins and outs of a contract. We have agents, and we got agents that deal with that stuff. So, of course, Micah wants his agent to do it. So don't tell me you're urgent to get this done when you won't even call his agent. And I don't know what the deal is with him and David Mulligetta. Mulligetta's one of the best agents in the league. So I don't know.
Forbes just called him the most powerful guy in the NFL.
I don't understand what in the world is going on. No, he's
I'm
up
just
there.
telling you, he's a top agent.
He's
sorry.
Okay.
Forbes called him the most powerful agent.
He is a great
Okay.
agent.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
it's
probably
just,
not more powerful than Goodell.
Yeah,
it's
disingenuous. I think.
Well,
now look quickly.
Yes,
I do think it's getting done.
Probably.
I'm probably. But Jerry does seem dug in. And the fact of the matter is this, as much as I hope Micah gets his deal,
Micah doesn't have a lot of
because of the
leverage.
rule. Yeah, the rules are what they are. He can't sit out. We can talk about that. He can't sit out the whole season.
Parsons, at least on the surface, kept his head down. He trained, he conditioned, he practiced. But that trademark game day swagger, it felt replaced by something colder, sharper, like a man who'd turned frustration into laser focus. Across the league, phones started ringing. Other GMs called quietly, probing for weakness. What would it take? Would Jerry Jones, the man who swore he'd never let a generational talent walk, really move him? Officially, the Cowboys insisted they weren't taking calls. Unofficially, every player in the NFL has a price. And with the salary cap tightening, big contracts coming due, and egos clashing behind closed doors, the real question wasn't if Jerry was in control. It was whether he was playing a masterclass in leverage or playing with fire.
It makes no sense whatsoever. Especially when you have TJ Watt, who set the market for being the highest paid non-quarterback. In black and white, you know what the numbers are. He's making $41 million. Myles Garrett, before TJ Watt, he was making $40 million at the defensive end position. So you know what the numbers should be, and it's in black and white. So I don't understand why the deal is not done right now currently, but also I don't understand Jerry Jones and his logic behind not talking to the agent of Micah Parsons. I think it's utterly disrespectful to say that, hey, I was in the room talking to Micah Parsons about leadership, and then all of a sudden we got on contract talks, and then I felt like we struck a deal, because that says to me, no, you felt like you got over on Micah Parsons because his representation was not in that room. So I don't know what GM, what owner in their right mind thinks that a player is going to sit there and have a casual conversation with you, and the next thing you know, you're talking about a contract, and then y'all strike a deal. It's okay to have the respect for David Mulugeta and call the agent of Micah Parsons and figure this thing out. But that's not the case for Jerry Jones. So Jerry Jones is acting like the child in this situation, and Michael Parsons is being the adult.
It started innocently enough, or at least that's how it looked. On August 11th, 2025, Jerry Jones strolled the red carpet at the premiere of America's Team, The Gambler and His Cowboys, a glossy Netflix chronicle of his decades-long reign. Flanked by family, flashing bulbs, and Hollywood's glint, Jerry gave the press his signature mix of charm and showmanship. Then, with cameras rolling, he leaned into his favorite storyline. The Cowboys are a soap opera, 365 days a year, he said, grinning. And when it gets slow, I'll stir it up. The crowd laughed. The quote made headlines. But inside the Cowboys' locker room, where tension was already a living, breathing thing, it didn't land as comedy. It felt like a shot across the bow. This wasn't Jerry's first public clash with a star. Cowboys history is littered with high-profile fallouts. Emmitt Smith's holdout, Jimmy Johnson's sudden exit, DZ Bryant's messy goodbye. Sometimes Jerry emerged as the master strategist. Other times he looked like a man too proud to bend, even if it cost him wins. What made this feud different was timing. Micah Parsons was in his prime, healthy, dominant, the beating heart of a defense built to chase a Lombardi. Losing him now wouldn't just be a personnel blunder. It would be the kind of mistake that haunts a franchise for decades.
This should not be a negotiation. I think this is tantamount to a max salary in basketball. It's time. This is what he get. Pay him. This is not someone you should negotiate with. He was a first-round pick who performed like on a Hall of Fame track. What are we doing? You pay him $1 more than the person who got paid at that position prior to him. There are some car dealerships you can go into and haggle. There are some that the price is the price because it's so rare and valuable.
He is probably the greatest non-Terp defensive player in the history of the Dallas Cowboys. He's that guy. There's no way around it. I could understand why it might take you a while to come to a consensus with CeeDee Lamb. I could understand how it is that you don't want to have to make yourself pay Dak Prescott all that money. You should be excited about giving that money to Micah Parsons.
And maybe, just maybe, that's the point. Jerry Jones has always treated attention like currency. In his world, controversy isn't a crisis to contain. It's a tool to wield. There's sizzle, there's emotion, and there's controversy, he said on that red carpet. That controversy is good stuff when it comes to keeping people's attention. But attention doesn't block passes. It doesn't sack quarterbacks. It doesn't hold a locker room together. And when the cameras stop flashing and the stadium lights fade, it sure doesn't win games. Now, with the season fast approaching, Dallas stands at a crossroads. Micah Parsons is still on the roster, but his future has never felt more fragile. And Jerry, he's still smiling for the cameras, certain he can control the story.